What would you say is the best action film of all time? Some people might say The Bourne Ultimatum, maybe the John Wick films, maybe Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation. Some might even say Die Hard. Those are all great action films. But let's take a look at something a little more obscure that maybe you haven't seen before. This is the Kazdoy Closet. I'm Kazdoy, and this is my closet full of all the stuff that I love. And today we're going to look at what some people regard as the most important and influential action film of all time. In fact, Star Wars may have never existed if this film hadn't come first. At the end of the episode, I'm also going to give a recommendation for a streaming service. First, a diatribe. I was watching Justice League last night. This is the Zack Snyder 4-hour director's cut, and it's fine. It's impressive looking. It's fun so far. And the effects are very good, but they're also CGI, computer-generated imagery. And it looks cool, but it's like I'm watching an animated film or I'm watching a video game. And there's no real sense of danger to any of the characters. There's really nothing at stake. Compare that to a film I want to talk about today and some older action films where there is no CGI because it wasn't invented yet. And there's really danger involved to the actors and to the crew. And it feels real, and it feels more thrilling, and it feels more dangerous because it really is. It really is real. And to me, that just gives much more excitement than something that I'm looking at knowing that person's really not there doing all this. It's just kind of all fake behind them. So with that in mind, let's talk about what many consider the best action film ever made, and it's The Hidden Fortress. And this is from 1958 in beautiful black and white in Japanese. It runs 138 minutes, but boy, it moves really fast. This is about these two greedy peasants trying to avoid these wartime battles, and they come across a general who promises them some gold if he helps them transport this gold across enemy territory. Along for the ride is a princess, even though the peasants don't know it, and this princess is going to reclaim her kingdom and rebuild it when they get to the other side with the gold. George Lucas has cited The Hidden Fortress as a major influence on Star Wars, in particular the use of two lower characters to tell the story. In this case, it's the two peasants. In the case of Star Wars, it's the two droids, R2-D2 and C-3PO. Other similarities are, instead of samurai swords that are used in this film, Star Wars uses the laser swords. And instead of speeder bikes used in Star Wars, The Hidden Fortress is using horses. And then, of course, there's also a princess involved. Now, this was directed by the great Akira Kurosawa, one of my favorite directors. And he was very influenced by John Ford and John Ford Westerns. And that might be one reason why American audiences and Western audiences enjoy his films so much. Kurosawa uses horses a lot in many of his films, and an interesting thing about this film is in the westerns of John Ford and other westerns, when the horses gallop, they kick up dust behind them. And the only problem was in Japan, where this was filmed, there was really no dust on the ground. So Kurosawa had to have his carpentry department actually make dust out of wood particles and throw it all over the ground so that when the horses galloped by, they would kick the dust up because that would create a sense of speed. This is an epic film. It's wide screens. You're going to get those bars, black bars on the top and bottom of the film. And there's hundreds of extras in some of these scenes. It's really a mix of samurai film, road movie, and Western. There's big battle scenes. There's big duels. There's some twists and turns. There's even some humor. I'm never disappointed, so far at least, in any Kurosawa films. This was his first big hit since Seven Samurai 4 years earlier. Here's Seven Samurai right here. I've talked about that one before. And in the interim between Seven Samurai and The Hidden Fortress, he made 3 other films, which included Rashomon, Ikiru, and his take on Macbeth, Throne of Blood. All excellent films, except the critics weren't that crazy about The Hidden Fortress because these 3 previous films were more sophisticated films. It wasn't until George Lucas mentioned The Hidden Fortress as a major influence on Star Wars that the critics came around and recognized it as the great film that it is. Now, as I mentioned before about the dangers of filmmaking when you're not using computer-generated imagery, this was very physically demanding. For example, the 2 peasants, they have to climb up these steep gorges filled with loose rocks, and they're climbing up, they're sweating, and they're climbing up these steep gorges, and the rocks are falling down, and they're slipping, sometimes falling and tumbling down the gorge and having to climb back up again. I mean, it was so dangerous that the crew filming them, they were using ropes to hang on to, or else they would have fallen down too. Now, the secret weapon in this film, as in many Kurosawa films, is the great Toshiro Mifune. He is incredibly athletic, incredibly physical, and incredibly charismatic. He plays the general who gets the 2 peasants to help him transport the gold. And there's one scene where it's just unforgettable, where he is on a horse, galloping at full speed with 2 arms raised, holding a sword as he gallops. And that's really him, and he's really on that horse, and he's really doing it. He did not want the stuntman to do it, even though he had nightmares beforehand about doing this stunt, but he wanted to do it, so it looks real, and it's incredibly impressive. And then, of course, you have the princess, and she's quite good. That's her on the cover there, and she is not a femme fatale. She's not a damsel in distress, as happens in many Japanese films, but she has a very regal bearing, and she carries a riding crop with her. And she's not quite as aggressive as in the Star Wars princess, but she's still quite good. This Blu-ray is from the Criterion Collection, and it is stunning looking. It includes a commentary track. It includes a nice booklet with an analysis of the film. It includes a 10-minute interview with George Lucas discussing the influence of The Hidden Fortress on Star Wars, and a 40-minute piece of a documentary about Kurosawa. And he discusses the film along with other crew members and other actors and their experiences making The Hidden Fortress. If you're curious about seeing films like this one, or other films that I've talked about, or foreign films, or older films, but you don't want to go crazy and buy them like I do, then I suggest a streaming service called the Criterion Channel. It has a lot of art films by directors like Bergman and Fellini and Godard. It has a lot of older films, a lot of foreign films, the majority of which are probably Japanese. And then they have a permanent collection, and then they also have a rotating bundles of films around certain genres or certain actors or certain themes. For example, they have a film noir bundles occasionally, or westerns, or ones based on certain actors, or women filmmakers or black filmmakers. And check it out. I'm a Charter subscriber, so it was only like $10 a month for me. I'm not sure what they're charging now, but of course you can try it on a trial basis and then always cancel it later if it's not your cup of tea. But if you're looking for something different, and as Peter Bogdanovich once famously said, there are no old films, there's only films I haven't seen yet, you might want to check this out. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Feel free to leave a comment. Perhaps you've seen this film, The Hidden Fortress, or you want to mention one of your favorite action films. Leave a thumbs up. I prefer you don't leave a thumbs down. Subscribe would be fantastic. Share this episode with your friends and neighbors. Otherwise, I thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.